Hi, I'm Courtney Sippel, and you're listening to How's That Cricket Podcast.
You messed about, I caught you out. How's that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of How's That the Cricket Podcast with me, Lily.
And me, Ollie.
So we've got a fair bit of cricket to run through this week. We've obviously got the Women's Premier League auction that's recently just happened. We've also got a couple of WNCL matches, and we've of course got the T20 Women's World Cup that has started over in South Africa. So I think we're going to kick it off straight away with the Women's Premier League auction, weren't we?
Yeah, we certainly were. And we'll start with some of the Australians who got auctioned off. Ash Gardner was the highest priced at around 558,000 Australian dollars, which is crazy going to Gujarat. But it is wonderful, first of all, right off the top, to see this amount of money spent on women's sport. If you just look at the Australian players, you've got obviously Gardner, Beth Mooney, $350,000 in Australian. Elise Perry, a touch under 300,000. So it's wonderful. It's crazy to see, isn't it? How much money's been spent on women's cricket and women's sport in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a couple of, it was interesting to see. I know there was a few people that were quite surprised that some people sold and some people went unsold. I think in the Australian camp, one that surprised me was Alana King went unsold, and so did Amanda Jade Wellington, who's obviously a big franchise player and has been all over the world playing for so many different leagues and so many different tournaments. So they're the two that really surprised me, and there are some names in here which surprised me that they got picked up, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, regardless, it's still a great step for women's cricket, and it's really exciting to see this, on the rise and building. I'm super excited for it.
So in terms of the entire squads, there's only a few teams, so we will run through the whole squad. We'll start with the Delhi Capitals and have Jemima Rodriguez, Shafali Verma, Marizan Kapp from South Africa, Meg Lanning, Alice Capsey, Shika Pandey, Jess Jonathan, Laura Harris, Radha Yadav, Arundhati Reddy, Mini Marna, Poonam Yadav, Shana Deepti, Tania Bhatia, Tita Sandhu, Jasia Akhtar, Aparna Mondal, and Tara Norris of the USA, coached by John Batty. The Gujarat Giants go with Ashley Gardner, Beth Mooney, Georgia Wareham, all from Australia, Sneha Rana, Annabelle Sutherland, of course, from Australia, Deandra Dotton, a striker, of course, coming off the back of that WBBL win, Sophia Dunkley, of course, from England, you've got Shushma Verma, Tanuja Kanwar, Harleen Dale, Ashwani Kumari, Dayalan Hemalata, Mansi Joshi, Monica Patel, Sabini Magana, Hurley Gala, Brunica Susoda, and Shabnam Sakil, coached, of course, by an Australian in Rachel Haynes, which is nice to see a lot of an Australian influence in that side, of course, as well. The Mumbai Indians go with Natalie Sibber-Brunt, Pooja Vastrika, Harmanpreet Kaur, Yastika Bhatia, Amelia Kerr of New Zealand, Amanjot Kaur, Hayley Matthews of the West Indies, Chloe Tryon, Heather Graham of Australia, Izzy Wong of England, Priyanka Bala, Dara Gujar, Kumarai Kazi, Jitimanti Kalita, Neelam Bisht, Saika Ishak, and Sonam Yadav, coached by Charlotte Edwards, who, of course, has been in the WBBL as well with the Sydney Sixers. Royal Challengers Bangalore RCB have got Shruti Mandana, Rika Ghosh, Elise Perry of Australia, Renuka Singh, Sophie Devine, of course, former podcast guest of New Zealand, Heather Knight, England, Megan Shute of Australia, and, of course, the Adelaide Strikers, Kanika Ahuja, Dane Van Niekerk, Dane Van Niekerk, I should say, of South Africa, Erin Burns of Australia, Preeti Bose, Komel Zanzad, Asha Shabana, Disha Kazat, Indrani Roy, Poonam Kemnar, Sahana Pawar, and Shriyanka Patil, coached by Ben Sawyer. And to round us off, the UP Warriors have got Deepti Sharma, Sophie Eccleston of England, Davika Vaidya, Tyler McGrath of Australia, Shabda Nuthnell of South Africa, and the Renegades. Grace Harris of Australia, Alyssa Healy of Australia, Anjali Savani, Rajeshwar Gayakwad, Shweta Sarawat, Kiran Navgira, and Lauren Bell of England, of course, Lakshmi Yadav, Pashavi Chopra, S. Yashari, and Simran Sheikh, coached by John Lewis. And again, I apologise if I've pronounced any of those names wrong, but I've given it a shot. And it's looking like being a good WPL tournament coming up. A lot of big names in there, a lot of Australian names, a fair few English players as well. A lot that we've had, front row seats to in the WBBL recently as well over here in Australia. So it should be a really good tournament. And to see the IPL have a women's equivalent is just wonderful. It's needed it for years, and to have this amount of money spent on cricket is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And like we mentioned before, it's just super exciting, isn't it? Like, I can't wait for it to get underway and watch how big it's going to be. Like I said, so much, the amount of money that's gone into it is, yeah, incredible. And I'm super excited to see how the tournament looks when it's set up and, when they're all over there and what happens. It's going to be so interesting. But yeah, looking forward to it. As well as I think a lot of other people are. So moving on now to WNCL, there's been 4 matches since we last spoken. We left it off with Tasmania and South Australia. We've then had Victoria and Western Australia. Western Australia winning by 27 runs. Western Australia batting first, setting 8 for 270. Top scores from Chloe Paparo with 70, Amy Edgar with 35, Matilda Carmichael with 57. The under-19s from the World Cup are back, so Reese McKenna and Ella Hayward are back in the wickets column for Victoria. And then Victoria unable to chase that down, all out for 243. They lose quite a big chunk of their players due to Australian duties, but the top scorers were Tess Flintoff with 43, Rhiannon O'Donnell with 44, Ella Hayward with 36, and Olivia Henry with 28. So yes, not too wonderful from Victoria, but Victoria managed to fight back in the second game, winning by 73 runs, which is quite unexpected. I think that took you by surprise there, Ollie. Victoria batting first, 9 for 259 off their 50. Sophie Reed with 73, Nicole Fulton with 56, Olivia Henry with 33, and Western Australia, no one could really get going. Amy Edgar 34. Their top order going quite cheaply with Chloe Parrott 8, Lisa Griffith 11, Matilda Carmichael 35, and then 2 wickets for Sam Bates, 1 for Ella Hayward, 3 for Sophie Day, and 4 for Millie Illingworth, who actually made her debut and was one of the stars of the under-19 Australian team. So a good win by Victoria there. That's definitely boosted their points and their run rate, I'm sure. And then the next game was between Tasmania and South Australia for that second one. Tasmania winning by 6 wickets. Disappointing run for South Australia, really. Tasmania just too good. South Australia all out for 224. Bridget Patson with 47, Josie Dooley with 40. Annie O'Neill lower down the order with 45. 4 from Sarah Coit, 2 for Macy Gibson, 1 for Amy Smith, and 1 apiece for Sasha Maloney, Molly Strano, and Julie Kavanagh. Then Tasmania's batting innings, they were only 4 down as they chased down the score in 42.2 overs. Elise Villani with 125 not out. I'm telling you, it's the how's that charm. Lizelle Lee got 1, Nicola Carey got 42, Emma Mannix-Jeeves 16, Naomi Stallenberg 18, and Molly Strano 9 not out. But when you've got someone like Elise Villani up in the top order of your team, you don't need too many lower down, that's for sure. So Tasmania winning that one by 6 wickets. And then we have got New South Wales and ACT. These were the country games out in Orange in New South Wales. New South Wales winning by 7 runs in the first one, so it came relatively close. Top scores from Phoebe Litchfield with 46, Erin Burns with 87, Saskia Hawley with 51, and 3 wickets for Gabby Sutcliffe, and 1 each for Zoe Cook, Holly Furling, Jana Tull, Simona, Carly Leeson, and Alicia Bates. In their batting innings, they were all out for 256, 114 from Zoe Cook, and like scores under 30 for everyone else, but supporting roles nonetheless. But quite disappointing for Zoe Cook because obviously she's come back from injury. She's just trying to find her form again, and then she can't win the game for ACT, and it comes really close. So 2 wickets each from Sammy Jo Johnson and Isabella Malgiolio, and then 1 wicket from Lauren Smith. But like I said, unfortunate for ACT thereafter. They have got a win on the board this tournament, so they know they can do it. But yeah, unfortunate there. And then New South Wales winning with a bit more of a comfortable win in the second game, winning by 34. New South Wales batting first, setting 244. Talia Wilson with 112. Phoebe Litchfield 57. Saskia Hawley 20 not out, and Lauren Smith 23 not out. And then ACT all out for 210 with Carly Leeson 63, Zoe Cook 31, and Rebecca Carter with 45, and 3 wickets for Ebony Hoskin, 3 for Lauren Smith, 2 for Lauren Cheadle, 1 for Sammy Jo Johnson, and another 1 for Isabella Malgiolio again there. And then 1 more against Tasmania and Western Australia. Western Australia surprising me here after the Big Bash. They're kind of going a little bit downhill. Batting first, all out for 172, Chloe Paparo 59, Maddie Dark 12, Matilda Carmichael 20, Lisa Griffith 38, Amy Edgar 20. 3 from Molly Strano, 3 from Sarah Coy, and 3 from Amy Smith. An incredible catch was actually taken by Sasha Maloney on I saw it on their stream. I'm pretty sure it's all over social media. She takes a flying catch out to her side. And then Tasmania were 1 for 173 off 24 overs. Lizelle Lee 106 not out, Elise Villani 1, and Nicola Carey 60 not out. So a pretty good performance by Tasmania there, looking super strong. And I think it can go anyone's way, but obviously this week our guest talks to us about the WNCL and we find out more about the Queensland team and their hopes in making finals. But the ladder is currently looking like Tasmania in first, Queensland second, South Australia third, Victoria fourth, Western Australia fifth, New South Wales sixth, and ACT seventh. Victoria have jumped up that order, actually. They were 5, 6 before, and they've gone all the way up to 4. So good effort from Victoria recently.
Yeah, it's going to be too late, though, the run. We've got 2 games against ACT, mine. So if we can win both of them, it would look a little bit better. But, we're not going to move from 4th. The only way we're moving from 4th is if we move down. We won't be able to move up. But just quickly, a couple of things on the WNCL before we move on. There is a game today, Tasmania and Western Australia. That's taking place about a half an hour after we're recording this. But this episode will be out on the Thursday. Of course, there's a double header for South Australia. And of course, if you're listening to this on the Thursday or Friday morning, get yourself onto the Cricket Australia live stream because Lily, you're on ball by ball comms.
Yeah, I am, and I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm excited. I'm so excited because I've only done the special comments one before, so it's going to be a little bit different. But I'm in there with some pretty cool people. I'll be up there with Kurt Meagle, who's obviously an umpire here in South Australia, Lauren Ebsary, who's a former striker, former scorcher, former South Australian player, and Alicia Dean, who was also the wicketkeeper before Tegan McFarlane as well. So buzzing for that, but yeah, also rather nervous. So doing lots of preparation today, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
You'll be absolutely fine.
So yeah, obviously we will talk about all the commentary stuff in the next episode.
So moving on to the Women's T20 World Cup, we've got a lot of games to talk about, so we're just going to breeze over the scores here. First game was between South Africa and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka winning that one by 3 runs. England then beating the West Indies by 7 wickets. Australia then absolutely battered New Zealand in a reverse of the T20 Men's World Cup first game between these two. Australia winning by 97 runs in that one. India then beat Pakistan by 7 wickets. Sri Lanka then also won by 7 wickets against Bangladesh. England beating Ireland rather comfortably by 4 wickets. I mean, they made it slightly tougher than themselves than they needed to, but they got there in the end. South Africa then beat New Zealand by 65 runs. Australia beating Bangladesh by 8 wickets. India beating the West Indies by 6 wickets. And to round it off, Pakistan winning over 70 runs against Ireland.
So that is obviously the World Cup up to date. Do we have any early predictions? Who do you think is going to win it this year?
Can't back against Australia, can you?
Yeah, I don't think so. I've seen things that people reckon that they're just not going to do it this year, and I think they're going to. If I'm completely honest, I think the confidence they're going into it with, obviously with all the previous wins, I think Australia are going to do it. But if we quickly run over the ladder so far, in Group A, we've got Australia first, Sri Lanka second, South Africa third, Bangladesh fourth, and New Zealand fifth. And then in Group B, we've got England first, India second, Pakistan third, West Indies fourth, and Ireland fifth. I wonder whether we're going to get a 50-over World Cup final going on again in this World Cup. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's all the cricket so far this week. Moving on to today's guest, like we said, it's a WNCL related one. So this week we had a chat to Courtney Sippel, who's so much younger than I thought she was. She's only 21 and she's already playing for Australia A. She's won the Betty Wilson Young Cricketer of the Year award recently at the Australian Cricket Awards. And she's doing so well for Queensland and Brisbane Heat, being a regular within that team. But it was really good to chat to Courtney, actually. She chatted to me right before the group are flying over to South Australia for the WNCL. But she talks all about growing up in the country and moving to the big city in Brisbane and then just how it's kind of fallen into place and how she's had certain role models that she's played alongside and how they've helped develop her cricket. She also spoke about the WBBL 08 season, how it didn't quite go to plan for the Brisbane Heat, but how they're looking for redemption in this WNCL season with the Queensland Fire. So enjoy the interview with Courtney Sippel.
Gone! The catch is taken, and Gardner's gone. Sippel, the superstar, picks up her second in the over.
Welcome, and thank you very much for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So do you mind just telling me where in the world you are at the moment and what teams you're associated with at this point in time?
Yeah, so I'm in Queensland, in Brisbane at the moment. I'm with the Queensland Fire and Brisbane Heat.
Perfect. So you're currently in the middle of the WNCL. I think you you come over to Adelaide soon, I assume. You're playing on Friday. So you're currently sitting second, 2 more round games and then finals, which assuming you guys are going to make because you're doing extremely well this tournament. But how have you found this tournament so far, and personally for you, how has it been?
Yeah, it's been really challenging this year, actually. I feel like I haven't been bowling my best. But yeah, starting to come good now and starting to find a good rhythm and good routine into what I'm working on. And hopefully that comes across in the next 3 games and then into the next season.
Well, you said, you started off a little bit shaky, but you're finding your form now. And what better time to do it than when finals is just around the corner? So traveling to Adelaide, what are you most looking forward to about coming over to South Australia for the final 2 round games?
Honestly, just how well we're going to join as a group. We've been working hard the last month since we haven't had any games. So just, joining together as a group and seeing how that goes. I think the pitch is really going to suit our players, and it should be really cool to see where we're at.
I guess you mentioned it's been like a month since your last game now. The breakup between games and the breakup with the Big Bash as well. Does that pause the momentum of the team in a way, or do you have to like kind of regroup every single time you come back together, or how does that kind of shift your team bonding in a way between the season?
Yeah, bonding's always been pretty good with us. We all seem to just get around each other pretty easily. But going from the different formats, I guess our brand is playing a very attacking style of cricket. So we continue that in our 50 over form, but it's still just realizing we have so much more time coming from T20 to 50 over. And then during this month break, we've had a few people leave, and obviously the Aussies are gone. And then we have Charlie and Laris, who went over to New Zealand to play in their Super League. So we've had a really small group the last couple of weeks, but it's been really exciting. And then because we've just been playing club cricket and so many girls have been doing so well in that, just taking lots of wickets or scoring lots of runs. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, I think it's going to be an extremely close tournament right towards the back end here. And it's going to be super exciting to see where the results go and what happens. But I guess going right back to the very beginning now, how did you very first get into cricket and what was your pathway in order to get to where you are now?
So I started when I was 6. My whole family basically played cricket. So my granddad played for the over 60s, 70s Australian team. My other granddad played in the Queensland country team. My older brother has played for under 16 Australian teams. And everyone has just been in and around cricket pretty much our whole lives. So it was I was bound to play cricket. So, and then went up through, I guess, the Queensland pathways and went through the school sports system, and got picked up from there, started playing or training with the Queensland Fire when I was 14, just on and off since I lived 3 hours away. So we would come down whenever my brother was training with the under 17 Queensland boys or something to make it worthwhile for the trip. And I'd jump in and train with the Fire after. And then just kept going through that system and eventually got contracted with the Queensland Fire and have been doing that since.
Well, that's amazing. And I think for you, it's, slightly different because a lot of people grow up, around the city and playing in the city, but it was slightly different for you. So when you had to kind of, when you were contracted and you eventually had to move into the city, kind of out of the country area, what was that move like for you? Was it maybe a bit more tough having to move away and do something different?
Yeah, definitely. So I moved to the Sunshine Coast to finish year 12. And that was the year that I got my first contract. So it was really challenging being away from home, driving down to Brisbane. It was only an hour, but I was still going to school and playing all these, doing all this training up at the coast as well as down in Brisbane. So it got really tiring, and I eventually just had to stop coming down to Brisbane as much just because I couldn't take it physically or mentally, just all the driving that you had to do. And my body just wasn't used to it. And then moving to Brisbane, just that little bit further, I guess just still being away from home, like it takes a lot of courage to stay in Brisbane or away from home. And yeah, eventually now I'm pretty good with living on my own and living away from family, but still seeing them every now and again.
Yeah. And you mentioned getting your first contract while finishing school. Now, a lot of people kind of around your age who play WNCL and play Big Bash are in similar positions. They all got their first contracts finishing their last year of school. But for you, juggling the two, that must have been pretty mental. What was that like for you and your experiences, having to do all this study and exams and work and then play cricket as well professionally?
Yeah, I want to say it was pretty chill for me, to be fair. I wasn't really that into school, so I only did 4 subjects at school and I was doing a cert. So school was pretty good with me. They knew what I wanted to do and that I was contracted, so they worked well with me in doing whatever I needed to do. And if I missed a few days off school, then they were fine with that if I called it back up or something. So yeah, I would say it was pretty cruisy for me.
Oh, that's good that they're accommodating. But growing up when you were younger, being born and raised in Queensland, who were your role models, would you say, whether that be in a family aspect or in a professional aspect?
Yeah, I would say my dad and my brother were high on my role models. Um, yeah, I just always wanted to bat like them. They played an aggressive brand of cricket, and um, I just rated them so highly that I just wanted to be like them. And then on the bowling side, Holly Furling is from my area, so I looked up to her and I got to know her on a personal level, and not just the cricketer Holly Furling, but the person. So I think that was really cool that I got to be around her and learn from her.
Yeah, well, you mentioned obviously Holly Felling there, and I'm sure there are, plenty of other cricketers that you've probably played alongside or against that are big in the female kind of cricket world. But for you to play against them with these your idols and the people you looked up to, that must be a pretty surreal experience. Is that something that you're still kind of like when you run out onto a field, you're like, wow, like this is happening, or are you kind of past that now?
Yeah, I think like when I'm running out on the field, I'm more worried about what I'm doing than who I'm playing with, kind of thing. But and I just know them as a person now, so they're just a person to me. But I think it's pretty cool when you're talking to your friends and they're like, "Oh my god, like you've played with Elise Perry and you've done all this stuff and played with all these different people," and then you kind of sit back and then you're like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. Like I have come a long way, and I'm playing with all these amazing cricketers and even better people that you're just learning so much off them."
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Now, I guess moving back on to kind of WNCL and the start of like your professional career. Now, you won the WNCL with Queensland in the 2020-21 season. Took 3 wickets in the grand final against Victoria. Now, what was that experience like for you? That must have been pretty amazing. And is that a feeling you're looking to relive this season?
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like I'm a much better player than I was back then, and I'm way more experienced. I know what I'm doing. I know my game a lot better. So I think like I would happily take that feeling again and that learning that I had in that game as well. So yeah, I would love that feeling.
And to kind of like make your WNCL debut now, can you take me back to that moment, that day, if you remember exactly, where you were, who was against, and the feeling of just being able to play for Queensland and play for, you know, a state that you've lived in, and, you know, how much of an honor it was to play for your state?
Yeah, so it was actually quite funny. So we were sitting at dinner in one of the girls' rooms that night, and there was about 6 or 7 of us, and the team list came through and it had debut next to my name, and a few of the girls were like, debut, what? Haven't you already played? And I was like, no, I haven't. So then the next day it was a rain delay, and we actually sat at the hotel for half of the day, and I was rooming with Holly Furling, and she was just making sure that I was really calm, and yeah, it just helped me in that sense of, well, am I actually going to play? Am I actually going to make my debut today? But she kept me calm, and then we eventually headed off to the ground and we were playing ACT. We actually ended up losing that game. I think we played 25 overs, and it came down to the last over, and I remember they needed 6 to win, and I was bowling, and I think I bowled a full toss and she hit me for 6, and that was game over. So not the best start, but it's definitely got better from there.
Yeah, well, that's it. And moments like that, I guess it's like, you know, people have those moments, and people have those moments where, you know, a result wouldn't go their way necessarily. But for you, you know, you're still with the Queensland team. You know, they've stuck by you and they've trusted you. So how does that feel to know that even though you maybe had that kind of start to your career where you are now, you know, they've trusted you and they've kept going with you, and yeah, where you are now, what does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, I guess it's always a privilege playing for Queensland, and the fact that they have supported me during my whole journey, whether I'm going through a low patch and feel like I'm not bowling my best, but they're them still believing in me. And I think that's something that I take forward with me every day and every game. And yeah, I've pretty much played almost every game of WNCL since my debut. So I think that's really cool, and seeing where I'm at with that.
Yeah, for sure. And then going on to Big Bash and playing for the Heat now, you made your debut in WBBL 05. Now, what on earth was your experience like playing in the Big Bash? Because it's such a huge competition. People from all over the world come to play in it. So can you tell us a little bit about your debut there and what it's like to be a part of the Heat?
Yeah, so I guess I haven't really had that good of debuts, but my debut for Heat was against the Melbourne Stars, sorry, and it was very overcast, and I just remember it being like this dull moment, just flashed back to it, and it was just like, it's almost like cloudy days, and just I kind of just put it in the back of my mind now, but I the Stars got off to a flyer, and I bowled one over, and I think it went for 12 or 14, and didn't bowl again. So um yeah, and but we ended up winning that game, and that was the only game I played that season, but it was awesome to be around that group that ended up winning at the end of the tournament. So then just going into the next season, I started playing more games. I think I played 6 or 7 games the following year, and just learning from that. I think my first wicket was Nat Siva, and I think that's pretty cool that like it was an international wicket, and you just kind of sit back and you're like, wow, I'm playing against all these big name players, and it's just a really cool experience.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And then I guess to go to this year's Big Bash now, for the Heat, you had a really good season, and then probably didn't end the way you would have liked to win against the Strikers at Karen Rolton Oval. But talk to me a little bit about WBBL 08 and your experience within this tournament, results aside.
Yeah, so I pointed out earlier that I obviously felt like I haven't been bowling my best this season, and yeah, especially compared to last WBBL, but I think it's still pretty cool that I was taking wickets, and the big wickets of international players, and I think that's just where I've got to learn, is it's okay to have a bad season, but still recognize the good things that I did in that season and learn from it and take that into the following season, what worked well, what didn't. Yeah, and I didn't have the most confidence going into any of those games, even with my fielding and stuff, and so that meant I bowled less in the power play, but I actually really enjoyed bowling in the power surge, and I think I did pretty well in the power surge when I got the opportunity to bowl in there. And I think those plans, that I was really clear in those plans and what I had to do in the surge. It was just the outside of the surge that I was really struggling with and wasn't sure, just lacking confidence in what ball I wanted to bowl and where I wanted my field. So, and then, in the field, like I dropped a lot more catches than I have ever done each season. And I guess it's just going back to the basics and not worrying about what the crowd is thinking and all the outside noise. That's a big one for me, is all the outside noise. And I know if I'm just focusing on what I need to do, then I'm exceeding.
Yeah. And I guess talking there, you said you took some key wickets of international players. You took 12 this season in total. Now, like you said, putting team results and the performance aside, now, would there be anything that you would change going back about the season, or are you happy with kind of what you did in a way that it's going to be a learning curve for you, or are there certain things that you would like to kind of change and alter about the season if you could?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of things that I'd like to change about the season, but I guess in the end, it's just taking those learnings and moving forward with them, and know that it wasn't actually a tactical thing as well. It was more technical. So I was struggling a lot with my action changed just randomly during the start of the season, and I guess I formed bad habits in that, and so that meant I couldn't bowl very tight. So I was just leaking a lot of balls out wide, which meant I couldn't really bowl to a field. So I guess it's just taking those learnings.
Yeah. And now going into the semi-final against the Strikers, there were a few words exchanged, and I don't know whether you knew anything about this, but if you can, because we haven't heard much really aside from these quotes that were shared, but Megan Shute directed some quotes towards your Heat team saying when they're out on the field, the way they play their cricket is a bit arrogant. Do you have any opinion on this? And did that kind of build any tension going into that semi-final? And did that give you a bit more like of a drive in a way to kind of beat them and show the Strikers and Megan Shute wrong?
I only found out that those words said like the day before or even the morning of, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, like whatever is said outside our camp, we know what our camp thinks of ourselves, and we know we play an aggressive brand of cricket, and we have a lot of confidence in our team. And I think if someone sees that as arrogant, then that's on them. I think we just got to keep being confident and know exactly what we want to do as a team and go forward in that. So
yeah, no, that's good. And it didn't like put you off in any sort of way, did it? If anything, would it have given you a bit more kind of like push and a bit more drive rather than shying away?
yeah, for sure. Like all the girls were up and about for that game, and I think it gave us a bit more energy coming off the back of the game the day before. So yeah, it eventually didn't go our way, but I think again there was just so much learnings to take from it and just trying to learn from that.
Mm. And it was a bit of a roller coaster of a game as well, wasn't it? Because Georgia Redmayne also went down in that game. She'd just come back. She was leading run scorer for the time before her first injury, came back, she was ready, and then she went down again. Now, do you think that was a momentum shift in the game for the Heat, her having to go off? Ellie Johnson was coming in to keep. Now, yeah, do you think that maybe shifted how the game was going to go for you?
I think it could have definitely had an impact. Like a lot of us would have dropped our energy a little bit and just felt like nothing was going right for us that night. And I guess by the end of the night, nothing did go our way in sort of in the scheme of things. But like in any other game, we're probably taking a lot more of those catches, and I think it all just got a bit too much for us, and we didn't go back to the basics and just reset, focus, and realize that we actually still had the game on the ropes. Like I think a few of us might have dropped our heads a bit too early, and that's another learning we can take from that game.
And after that defeat in the Big Bash, now doing so well for Queensland, are you kind of taking that game against the Strikers and that end to the season, and is that kind of giving you a bit more of a push to win this WNCL? Are you kind of going, right, you know, we couldn't back it up in the Big Bash, but like redemption, really want to get it done in the WNCL?
Yeah, definitely. I think every team wants to hold that trophy at the end of the day and at the end of the season, and we are just so close, and we just don't want to not make another final because we've done all the hard work during the season, and it's just really exciting to see where the group is at and just playing together. And with our Aussie girls gone now, like, we want to do it for them as well, as much as us and all of Queensland, all the past players and even all the players to come. Like, it'd be amazing holding that trophy for our second win ever of the Roof Pretty. So yeah, I think it would just be an awesome feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we'll see how that goes. Now, going on recently to the Australian Cricket Awards. Now, you won the Betty Wilson Young Cricketer of the Year, which is incredible. Now, for you, how much of an honour was it to win this award? You also won an award alongside some other Queenslanders. So, yeah, what did it mean to you to win such a great award?
It was really special. I was very speechless. If anyone saw my speech, I could not come out with words in that first question. But yeah, it's honestly an honour, and you see all the players who have won it before me, and they've all played for Australia at some stage. So it's just really exciting, and the fact that it was voted by your peers and the people that you're playing against and with, I think that is something that I'll cherish forever. That, like, my peers thought I had a great season. So yeah, so cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think that's like just the start of kind of many achievements and many things to come. But something else that you've done is you've also played for Australia A against England A in the start of last year, it was in the women's Ashes. Now, what was that experience like to pull on Australian jersey and, yeah, play against some top tier England players?
Yeah, it was really cool. We had Australian players coming in and out of that team as well. So I was playing with Annabelle Sutherland and Elise Perry in some games, and I think it was just cool seeing that I'm not that far away from getting picked up in the Australian stuff if I just keep working hard and keep doing what I'm doing. And I think I lacked a lot of confidence, and I felt like I didn't really deserve to be there as such, or in the first few games. And I was just like, wow, like, I'm actually taking the new ball in that first game, in the first practice game that we played against Australia. And I was like, wow, I've bowled to Alyssa Healy before, but it just felt a lot different. And I felt like I almost was like, oh my God, where do I bowl? But I know that I've done that. So it's just believing in myself. And yeah, by the end of that tour, I think I ended up getting 4 for against England A in our last 50 over game. And I think that was the breaking point of where I actually felt confident. I felt like I knew exactly where I wanted to bowl, and I didn't really worry about the result up the other end. It was just focusing on me and focusing on what I had to do with my role in that situation.
Yeah. And did you have any contact with like the main Australian team? Because you're playing alongside, like we said, the main Australian team. So did you have any connection with them or the Australian players, like you said, Perry, who didn't play in that Australian team at points? And did they give you any advice or anything like that you kind of picked up from playing alongside them?
Little bits here and there. So the game that I didn't play, I think they were staying at the same hotel as us. So the game that I didn't play, when the Aussies came back down and played for us, I had to bowl at the end, and Perry came and was standing behind me and just watching me bowl and giving me any tips that she could see that to help me. And I think just having her there, like, helped me with my confidence. And yeah, it was very helpful.
Yeah, no, that must be pretty incredible to kind of learn from the best to do it. But yeah, I think it's, put you in really good stead, and hopefully we can see you in one of the main Australian shirts very soon. Now, I guess to go kind of on to general cricket stuff, do you have just a favourite cricket memory from any cricket that you've played over the years?
Great question. Yeah, there's been a few. I like the feeling of I'll say Big Bash 2 seasons ago. I think it was '07 where I took 2 for 12 or four, and I had Keely and Gardner in that same over, and like that feeling I have never felt before, and I probably will never feel that feeling again. But like it was honestly amazing, and I like words can't even describe how cool that was. And I remember my one of my friends was at this carnival with my dad, and they were all sitting watching the game. And when I got my first wicket, everyone was cheering, and these were all people that I've known and grown up around, and they were cheering in this big room, and everyone was just so happy. And my friend said my dad just couldn't stop smiling, and I think that's what just made the moment so much more special to me, was that I knew that my family and friends were celebrating what I was doing on the field with everyone, and they're like, well, that's my daughter kind of thing. So I think that was a really cool moment for me.
That's amazing. And do you have a favorite teammate from any of the teams that you've played across?
Ooh, that's also a great question. Um, yeah, I love all my teammates. I think it's always fun learning from different people and the way that they go about their game, because it can be very different to how you go about yours. And um, yeah, I think one of my favorites would probably be Charlie Knott. I love the way she preps and how she goes about her game, and like she's one of the people that I always want on my team, because I just know that she could pull off something special in a game.
Yeah. Now, obviously, we've spoken a little bit about what you kind of hope to achieve in the back end of this WNCL. You know, we are nearing the end of the Australian cricket summer, but for you, what would you say your goals are, maybe for like the back end of this season, and just your goals for the future, maybe a bit more long term in general?
Yeah, I think obviously winning the title at the end of the season and walking away with a few more wickets would be very nice, and maybe get a bit more opportunity with the bat. But in future seasons, I'd love to be pushed up the order in the with the bat, and really make an impact of being an all rounder in WNCL. Um, and then just each year just getting better and better, and taking more wickets, and experiencing new competitions, and maybe going overseas if that's a possibility for me. And yeah, I'm just very excited for the next few years.
That's wonderful. And you mentioned going overseas there. Obviously, is that something that you kind of look to do like in your off season, or what does your off season kind of look like for you? Do you, well, obviously you'd stay here, but what kind of cricket do you do here, you know, when there isn't much?
I try not to play much cricket at all. I like to have a good break, and however long that is for us with our state team at the time, whether we have 1 or 2 months off or longer. And yeah, I try and not be around cricket as much in the off season and have some downtime. But yeah, I'd love to go overseas if that meant me not having an off season as much, or maybe just having a month off. I would happily take that for a bit of experience in a different country and different wickets, and being around different people, different teams, coaches. Like that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like we said, hopefully that's something that we can see with obviously women's cricket building internationally, with obviously the women's IPL. It's building that'd be brilliant to see some other things pop up elsewhere to get some more Australian players going overseas. But now, just to kind of wrap up, I've got some quick fire questions which we do at the end of each interview, some cricket related, some not cricket related. The first one is red ball or white ball cricket?
White ball.
Very good. Now, if you were stuck on a desert island, you could take one person with you and two things. Who are you taking and what are you taking?
Hmm. Do they have to be a cricketer?
No.
At the moment, I can't really think anyone, so I'm just gonna say Charlie Knott. And um, maybe matches, and I don't even know. Maybe a bit of food.
Yeah, nice. You'll survive. If you were in the final over of a game to win a final, let's say WNCL final, you can either hit 3 sixes to win the game or take a hat trick to win a game. Which one would you prefer?
Probably a hat trick.
Good, makes sense. Now, do you have a favorite shapes flavor?
I'll probably say pizza.
Beach or backyard cricket?
Backyard.
Pineapple on a pizza, yes or no?
No.
Okay, interesting. Orange juice or apple juice?
Orange.
Favorite cuisine?
I don't know, actually.
We interviewed Thomas Kelly from the Strikers, and he said pub was his favorite cuisine. I'm like, I don't know whether that's necessarily a cuisine. Like, I was thinking more, I don't know, like Mexican or Japanese, but he just went pub, and I was like, all right, it's a very void answer to give.
That would definitely be down my aisle. Just a nice steak with a ginger beer on the side.
Love it. Now, if you were on a game show and you were trying to win the $1 million jackpot answer, you could phone a friend to get the answer. It could be a teammate, a family member, whoever. Who would be your go-to person to call to get this answer for you?
Maybe Laura Harris. She does a lot of the books where you have to write in all these different things, and she seems to know a lot of those answers. I don't think any of the other girls can, or they never seem to be able to help, especially me. So I'm gonna go with her.
Good answer. And our final one is porridge a cereal, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. But yeah, no, that's all the questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. All the best with all the rest of your season. I'm super excited to watch on and see what happens at the end of the WNCL. But yeah, thank you again.
No worries, thank you.
Gone! The catch is taken, and Gardner's gone. Sippel, the superstar, picks up her second in the over.
So that was Courtney Sippel of the Brisbane Heat and the Queensland Fire. Wonderful to chat to Courtney. We've only ever had one Brisbane Heat / Queensland player in Georgia Redmayne on twice. So it's really good to have another Queenslander on the podcast, and really enjoyed chatting to Courtney. It'll be exciting to see what she can do on Friday with the Queensland team in South Australia. But that just about wraps it up this week. So a little bit of announcement at the end of this week's episode. We have kind of come to a little bit of a decision that for the indefinite future, we will be doing one episode every 2 weeks, purely because stuff's ramping up now. Life's ramping up. Ollie's got uni. I making plans to go away. So it'll be a bit tricky to keep an episode every week. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm doing lots of things. So we're just getting quite busy. So we thought it would be best for now just to do one episode every 2 weeks. But obviously, make sure you stay tuned. We'll still have plenty of things to come. Next episode, not next week, the week after, we will be joined by Hannah Baker, who is an England under-19 team of the tournament star. Played super well for England in the under-19s T20 World Cup. So I chat to Hannah very early in the morning, but all about the World Cup, all about South Africa, all about the 100. So everything like that. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, that is all for us this week. If you enjoyed listening, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at howsatTCP, or you can send us an email at howsatthecricketpodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave us a rating on Spotify as well, which would be greatly appreciated. But that is all from me.
See you next time. Have a good one, everyone.
How's that?